Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Mike Gravel here again today. We are talking about the ups and downs, the journey of a startup today. So, give me a thumbs up. Let me know where you're at, where you're looking, watching live from, where you're actually located. My name is Mike Grabham. I help people launch ideas, help founders and inventors launch ideas. In this process, I talk to obviously a lot of founders, a lot of first and second time founders, the early stage founders, and I've kind of been doing some research on what people are watching, what content's being more consumed more across a lot of different platforms, Quora, of course LinkedIn, but several platforms, Reddit, and what I've really learned in kind of watching things is it's really interesting because there's very few people that talk about all the hardships of it. There's many people talk about all the cool stuff that happens in a startup, but the hardships and the struggles that you go through, like especially if you're single founder, kind of being alone at the top. I mean, all those things are really interesting. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that and go a little deeper into that today. But again, my name's Mike Grabham. If it's first time watching, let me know. Give me a thumbs up. Leave any comments or questions in the comments below. If there's anything I can answer, go ahead and ask that. Answer that. Or go ahead and put that down there as well. Some interesting stuff happening with me personally. I've got tomorrow morning. I'm doing a live event in the UK, which is very cool. So I'll be doing that at 10:30 here our time. You know what? Let me make sure that's right. Make sure that's the right time. Yeah, that's right. So 10:30 tomorrow our time, which is 6:30 over in the UK. I'll be doing a live event, which is very cool. And then next week, and then tomorrow we have Alexa, a person from the Alexa Fund. I'm not going to tell anyone, it's a surprise, but we're going to have a surprise guest from the Alexa Fund tomorrow talking about all things Alexa. And then next Tuesday, a week from today, I've got Rand Fishkin. He's going to be on. We're going to be talking about all things marketing, and then all things talking about more about some just startup centric things. Some of the things, the way he's raised money for a startup, just some interesting stuff around startups. So that's the next week or so. We got some interesting things happening on the live stream here, and so let's get into it today. So again, the topic today is we see a lot of people, especially videos talking about all the cool stuff in a startup, and then all the cool tools and how to make $1 million, all that kind of stuff. But you don't hear a lot of people talking about the struggles they went through to get some certain stages of that. So I want to talk about that because when I've been doing the research over the last week and a half, there are a few people talking about like the difficulties of being a founder and the things that come up. But what I think is really interesting is there's so many resources now. I mean, if we look back 10 years or even 5 years for that matter, there was not near as many resources, one, to start the company, and then to support the company as it is today. I mean, I live in Seattle, so we have tons and tons of resources, live events, all kinds of great things that you can have access to pretty easily here in the city. We have a very vibrant startup community, so it's really pretty easy to get to things and meet people and meet smart people. But if you live in a smaller town, Madison, Wisconsin, or Wichita, Kansas, it's very different, right? You don't have near the amount of resources. There's some resources, but there's not near the amount of resources, and not near the amount of kind of the level of smart people that are around and kind of easy to get to. Not saying there's not smart people in Wichita and Madison, but I'm just saying there's not as many of them in those cities as there is in a Seattle or LA or the Bay Area or Austin or Boston, all the kind of major startup communities. So you don't have those resources. So as a founder, it's really tough when you are experiencing things that, especially a first-time founder, experience things you've really never experienced before, like just how your mind may play games with you. How hard it is, and how you find yourself alone, which is super normal, very normal when you're starting a startup and you're especially a solo founder. And even even if you're a founder that maybe owns 80%, so you still have a co-founder, but they're not maybe running the business like you are. I mean, you have that sometimes, that feeling of just, you just kind of feel alone. So it's really interesting is you really need to find resources, and those are mentors, those are advisors, those are maybe some people that are not in your city. They're out of your kind of normal kind of world, your normal network. But I've got to just plead with you. Find resources that have experience doing what you're doing. And I don't mean industry experience so much, but just starting companies, scaling companies, running companies, firing and hiring employees, all those things that happen as a startup, and again, especially if you're a first-time founder, you just need to find those resources because they absolutely exist. They're everywhere. You just have to do some outreach. The people are, there's a lot more people willing to help than not willing to help. So, make an effort to find people that you can surround yourself to help you manage not just the logistics of what I call logistics, blocking and tackling of running a business, but also the mental games that come along with that. I mean, I can tell you through experience, the last few days for me has been pretty tough just because, I don't know, just sometimes I feel like I'm just kind of in a grind and I'm not really doing enough, maybe not helping enough for my clients, or maybe I feel like I'm not, outreaching enough. I'm not reaching enough people. That's definitely why I feel sometimes. Like I feel like I'm not doing enough to reach other people. So it's mentally it's tough. So you second guess yourself. So you think like, oh, do I even know what the hell I'm doing? Right? And that is so normal. I mean, it's so normal. Many of us have that feeling. So don't be surprised when you have it, and don't hide it, because it absolutely exists. So, when you're at that stage where you feel like you don't know what to do next, or you feel like maybe you're over your head, you're just way over your skis, you just don't know how to handle it because you've not been there before. Just take a deep breath, and find that network you can interact with. That might be maybe a monthly coffee meeting in your city. It may be just phone calls with people. Like I said, the people are willing to help. You just have to do outreach. I don't care where you're at. I don't care if you're in a tiny small town in North Dakota. By the way, I just connected with the governor of North Dakota on LinkedIn. I just thought that was very cool. But yeah, so no matter, even if you're small town. I grew up in a super small town until I was about 12 years old. I mean, tiny little small town, Rose Hill, Kansas. I mean, there was one stoplight. So there's just not a lot of resources. So do some outreach, man. Just go out and look for people. I mean, they're willing to help. So in case you just joined us, my name is Mike Grabham. We're doing a live stream today. We're talking about just kind of the trials and tribulations of having a startup and what to do and how to manage that and how to manage the loneliness of the, kind of the only guy at the top kind of thing. So we're talking about that, but go ahead and leave a comment if it's your first time. Let me check comments just to make sure. Let me change this over here. So let me check to see if I have any comments. I do this on the fly on my phone. There we go. Okay, so yeah, so jumping back into that, especially again, I'm really kind of focused on first and second time founders because you don't have the context that you do if you've done it 2 or 3 or 4 times. So when you're in that, in that world of you don't know what to do next, or maybe you're building your product and you don't have the resources you wish you had. Maybe you wish you needed another developer or whatever those things are. When you start talking to people, you'd be surprised the kind of solutions you could come up with. I mean, I talk to people basically every day about their startup. Some of them are already clients, but like this morning I had a conversation with a guy who's not a client. I talk almost free to anyone for a half hour. So I was just chatting with him about his business, and we walked through some things, and I just came up with a couple ideas, pretty basic ideas, that really helped him solve a problem, which they're like so kind of just second nature for me. But he didn't think of it, and he's like, oh crap, I didn't even think of that. So it's not because I'm super smart. It's just, I've done some things, but it's more about just talking with other people, because that's really where you learn some interesting things. Not necessarily me, but just other smart people will be able to teach you things. So whatever you're doing in that that grind where you're at, just pushing along, pushing through it, keep pushing through it. look for help. Look for outsiders to help you do that. Some other things that I've found kind of curious and kind of interesting when I did some research on this content, that's what's popular content, at least in the kind of startup community, is people talking about all these cool tools, right? There's all these tools that you need to run your business. Now, as I said earlier on, I mean, there's so many flipping tools today that make building websites, make managing websites, make managing businesses dramatically easier than it did 5 or 10 years ago. No question. There are lots of great tools out there. But there is so many tools, especially in the marketing space. There's just so many tools that you can't try them all. I mean, it's that shiny object syndrome where you see the new thing, so you want to go check it out. Many of us have that. But here's what I've learned over the years is learn on demand. So just learn things what you need to learn when you need to learn them. Not like don't learn a new tool because you may need it in the future. That's a complete waste of time. So when you have tools, you're looking at tools, sure, you may need this, but do you need it now or do you need it someday in the future? Because if you need it now, then learn it now. If you don't need it now, don't waste your time on learning this cool tool right now, because you may never get there, because as you know, startups change along the way pretty quickly. So you may be going down this path today and then take a left turn 2 weeks later, and that tool that you thought you needed and maybe spent time to learn on, you don't even need anymore because you've done something differently. So don't learn something when you think you may need to learn it. Only learn it when you need it that minute, right? That second. I call it on-demand learning. And you can do that with anything, right? You can search anything on YouTube or wherever to find how to do something, right? So there's no reason to learn it before you need it. So remember that fight against the shiny object syndrome that you may be having. That one thing that I'm really curious is just all these cool tools that are out there. We just need to kind of fight against jumping on board with them until we really need them. Don't waste your time. Another thing I found, learned in this kind of content research was, when they are starting to get to that point where there's a bit of success, and I'm saying, not that they're hugely successful, but they've started to see where they can see the path to being, maybe quite successful. So they're getting to that spot where they're starting to see how their company could scale. Like they've kind of figured that out. Now that is where you want to be, because it gives you all the leverage when you're talking to investors, when you're talking to employees. When you hit that point, you internally, he or she, the leader, you have so much confidence in your conversations, and people can feel it. So when you have that, when you've hit that point where you're like, I absolutely know how to make this business bigger, and whether you have money, resources or not, it doesn't matter. Because once you've figured that out, you have the confidence and it just exudes from you. So when you get to that point, that is the point where that is the point where you want to raise money. That is the point where you want to hire the best person that you've ever met, and maybe they're working for another company, that you think you can't get to them. But you'd be surprised what people will do when they meet someone that has a conviction and just the confidence that you would have at that point in your career in that instance. It is absolutely, you can just see it in people. So it's really interesting that I get, when I see things talk about that, but that is important, is understanding where you are in the maturity of your startup. Because if you're starting early, you're not to that point where you've just got to manage your resources as best you can. So today we're talking about the ups and downs of your startup. My name is Mike Grabham. If you're just joining us, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, leave a question in the live. But really, we're all about sharing how the world in startups really works. And last point I want to make before we get out of here, because we're at 4 minutes left. The last point I want to make is, you've got to find outlets for your kind of the good and the bad, and especially the bad. The good is kind of easy to share. You share the good with all your friends, right? But the bad, you many times will not share that. So I really recommend that you find someone that you can always go to that will give you the proper feedback. And I am not saying pat you on the back feedback, like good job. I'm saying like directional decisions feedback. And when I say directional decisions, people, smart people, they know a lot of things about a lot of things, but they may not know all the details about what you're going through, right? They may not know all the details about your business. They may not know all the details about your industry, but they probably know quite a bit, right? Because they've just been around. Maybe they've been in the industry. They don't know all the details, but they're what I call directionally correct. So they're correct because they're going down the right path. They're going in the right direction. So that's why I call directionally correct. So find people that are directionally correct, and interface with that person on a regular basis, because you'll be surprised, especially down the road, as you are talking to that person and have several meetings, 3 or 4, 10, 15, 20 meetings. There's going to be a point where you have a lot of comfort with that person, and you're going to be able to get feedback, instantaneous feedback to things, and you're going to be able to make decisions, and you're going to find decisions you've made were just wrong, right? And that person will absolutely be able to call you out, and that's what you need. It's like a coach, right? I mean, you have people that say absolutely that doesn't work, or why did you do it that way? So they start to understand that, and they can give you the proper feedback when you need it. I think it's just super critical, again, especially if it's your first or second time starting a company. So, if he or she, if it's the first time you've started a company or the second time, make sure you find that person, because that person's going to save you a lot of aggravation down the road, and probably a lot of money, definitely time, and they're going to save you a lot of things. So I think it's super important to find that person earlier than later. So again, that's it for today. I just want to share with you kind of the how to get through the bad. I mean, everybody talks about the good, but how do you get through the bad? You do it by talking like this right now. I'm letting out some of the feelings and things I've been going through the last several weeks, which helps me, right? But also, hopefully, we're helping some other people that are willing to talk about those things. So go ahead and leave a comment, give me a thumbs up, share this, do whatever, subscribe, wherever you're watching this on the live. And I look forward to the next time. Like I said, tomorrow at 10:30, I'm on a live webinar in the UK, which is 10:30 a.m. our time. Tomorrow afternoon at 12:30, we have Alexa Fund on live. And then next Tuesday, we have Rand Fishkin on live. So until next time, which is going to be tomorrow, take care. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.